you asked for me. Here I am.
You want to help me?
Is there anything you remember?
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States, Thaddeus Ross.
Whatever this is, Cap, be careful. What do we know?
Prepare your patience for the 35th movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Captain America, stale old toast, is here, whether you like it or not. In this new film, Anthony Mackie's Sam Wilson has inherited the shield from Steve Rogers and now must protect the world from an evil plot involving planes, magic metal, but not the normal magic metal, a different one. There's a Hulk also, but he's red now. Indiana Jones is there. I fell asleep in the theater. Gather up all your friends and experience the film equivalent of when in high school you'd go in at the end of the year and your teacher would give you a final over all the material from the whole semester. And then the week before, they told you not to study materials from chapters 2 or 26, and instead to mostly focus on the stuff that was more recent, that you've been learning the past couple weeks. Then you'd walk in on the day of the test exhausted because you were up all night, and you tell people that it's because you were studying, but in reality, it's because you read half a page of like one chapter and then binge Scott the Woz videos on your phone for several hours before passing out on your desk, and then you woke up for school like 2 hours later. Anyway, you sit down at your desk and the teacher hands you the exam and then you write your name on it. And immediately after you do that, you realize that all of the questions on the tests are from chapters 2 and 26. So you look around the room and everyone except for like one person is freaking out because nobody knows any of that stuff. And the teacher knows that no one knows any of that stuff. So they just have this smug look on their face. And then the next time you see them, you ask them why they did that, and they just tell you that, well, you should have studied all the material because it was the final exam. And then you're like, well, yeah, maybe I would have done that if you didn't lie to my face and tell me that that stuff wasn't going to be on the test. What was the point of all that? To have some weird power trip? Oh, great. Now you get to feel mentally superior to a bunch of teenagers because you lied to their faces just to get the smallest amount of joy and schadenfreude by watching them look panicked for 5 minutes while taking a 90-minute exam. Am I losing track of the metaphor? Maybe this is getting too personal. Red Hulk do big smash. All right, Sam. Captain America, Brave New World. This is directed by Julius Onah, whose previous credits include The Cloverfield Paradox and some Sundance dramas. This is a script by Rob Edwards, Malcolm Spellman, Dylan Mousson, Julius Onah, and Peter Glanz, with a story by Spellman, Edwards, and Mousson.
That's a lot of names.
That's quite a few scriptwriters. Sam, what did you think of this, what is legally defined as a movie?
It's like honestly, it felt more like the On the Boys when they make like fake superhero movies in The Boys. Mm-hmm. It kind of looked and felt like a fake superhero movie from like a different show, or like it didn't feel like a real superhero movie.
I think more than any of the recent Marvel movies, this one felt almost entirely that it existed out of pure obligation. That they just needed a movie to come out this week, and this is
they were kind of grasping at straws as far as like what the story is, and like they were trying to go with like a government conspiracy type thing, kind of in a similar vein to like Winter Soldier, but like they did not execute on that premise nearly as well. The mechanism through which that occurs, the secret, what's the word?
And we'll hold off on spoilers.
Yeah, the mechanism by which the infiltration of the government occurs is wholly unsatisfying and kind of silly and never explained properly in the movie.
It's very odd, because if you've seen any posters or trailers, you know, that like this has the Red Hulk in it and stuff like that. So it's very odd to me that they were selling this so hard as like, this is a cool political thriller. This is Winter Soldier again. You love Winter Soldier. It's like that.
It's not at all.
It's odd to me that is what they chose to sell this movie as, and is obviously what it's trying to be in a lot of ways when they chose such a goofy premise with so many goofy characters in it. It's very odd, because if you look at Winter Soldier, right? Winter Soldier, it's not the most gritty, like down to earth movie, right? I mean, the entire third act is a bunch of like floating spaceship helicarriers crashing into each other in Washington D.C. Like that isn't super grounded, but the story sells it as if it is.
Yeah, so the audience believes it. Like, the audience can get a lot more invested if the characters, within the context of their story, take the situation seriously.
Yeah, and there's no Hulk running around in that movie for a very
it's just aesthetically
reason.
less ridiculous.
Yeah. But just to kind of go us back to the very beginning, we saw this movie 2 days ago, where we spent a little more. We usually record these right after. We took a few days after this, and I made my notes when we got out of the theater, and I'm looking at them now, and I'm like, I could not have written these probably the next day, because I've genuinely, this movie is so nothing. It leaves you with so little. Even just if you're a person who enjoys the wider MCU story implications, right? The setup for more movies. If that's the thing that you really love. Even if you're one of those people, this movie still doesn't really give you anything. It does that
very poorly. So, like, even the stuff that it does build on and the things that it does introduce to the larger Marvel universe, it doesn't properly explain or show us the ramifications of. So, like, I had friends in the theater who don't really watch Marvel movies or follow them very well. One who had never seen a Marvel movie.
That's impressive.
Yeah. And you probably noticed, but consistently they were asking me questions and I was trying to explain the context of what was going on. But, like, even when it came to that, I didn't really have a whole lot to explain for this movie itself. The only thing I really had to say was adamantium exists and it's more indestructible than his indestructible shield. And they don't even do that. They don't demonstrate that in the movie.
No, adamantium
that never comes up in the movie.
I would call it a MacGuffin, but it barely is.
Yeah, because it only shows up at the very beginning to make Japan mad.
It serves no purpose in the story. It's pretty much just an Easter egg.
Well, it's a linchpin that the leader uses to, like, make Japan upset. But we don't understand what the value of adamantium is, so that whole conflict feels very nebulous. We never
see the actual substance in action.
Yeah,
like it itself serves no purpose.
I think they should have made some kind of weapon that broke Captain America's shield, or damaged it in some way.
So here's the thing:
because that at least for the audience, it explains to them what this is. Yeah. Because we're like, okay, this metal is more indestructible than this metal, but we have two indestructible metals now. So what does that mean? You have all the metal you could get out of this thing. You got one bullet worth. And at some point, that bullet gets fired at Captain America's shield, and it damages it or dents it or breaks it or something. Yeah.
But I wouldn't be shocked if something like that existed in the movie at some point. Because just to give you, if you haven't been following this,
this movie's production has been an absurd roller coaster.
Announced 4 years ago. It was right after Falcon and the Winter Soldier finished airing on Disney+. The head writer of that show, which was Malcolm Spellman, started working on a script for this with Dylan Busan. Okay, so that was draft one. And then Rob Edwards came in, did another draft. And then Julius Onah, the director, came on board, and he did a draft with his writing partner, Peter Glanz. Okay? And then the rewrites just started compiling, and apparently they shot this movie 4 times. There were entire sequences that were in this that were thrown out, plot lines that you can tell, obviously, are just missing from the movie.
And now the director has said that they only did 1 round of reshoots, But then if you watch the movie and you see that there are like just massive tonal jumps and like plot thread fall off between scenes, you realize, no, this is definitely... Whether or not there were 4 rounds of reshoots or maybe one just extremely extensive round of reshoots, it's very clear that this movie was like Frankenstein's together and edited.
The script itself is Frankenstein.
Yeah.
You can tell... I think I read somewhere that they were reshooting this up until November of last year. So
and it is a shame because there are some actually really good performances in the movie. Like, I'm not sure the actor's name, but the guy who played Isaiah Bradley. All his scenes were really good. And his dynamic with the Sam Wilson Captain America, I found it to be really fun. Like, they have a very fun, like, almost like older brother, little brother chemistry to them, which I found kind of fun to watch.
He's one of the few, like, Captain America characters who is in this.
Yeah.
Which is an odd decision to make for the Captain America movie.
And, like, Bucky is around for one scene, and he has no impact on it. It's not a spoiler. He doesn't do anything. It's a spoiler if he shows up and is extremely... and he dies or something. If he just shows up, goes, all right, later, then that's nothing.
If we're going to just jump straight to that scene, what I enjoyed about that was just the fact that he walked into the room, right? And it's obviously him, because who else is it going to be? Sharon Carter? Like, there's no other characters.
I mean, it might as well have been. Yeah. Like, it would have made no difference. Bucky just
walks in, and the people in the theater with us, I got, like, it really happened. One of them just straight up, I think it was in the row in front, just pointed at the screen and just said, Bucky. And I was like, oh, that's who this movie's for.
Yeah, it's
the bare minimum. It's trying to get the audience excited about a character who should just be in the movie normally.
Yeah, he should have been in the movie.
Like,
I don't know why he wasn't in the... They had a whole TV show of these two characters. Mm-hmm. These two characters are, within the context of this franchise, inextricably linked. They are Captain America's best friends who are also pretty good friends. It makes sense for them to be doing things together, or at least around for each other's stuff.
But Bucky was too busy being in Thunderbolts.
Running for Senate or something?
He was too busy being in Thunderbolts.
Yeah.
So he has to do that instead for some reason. I'm glad you brought that show up because I want to try to give this some structure. I want to talk about like the story of this movie and how it basically has none. So that show, right, came out 2 years after Endgame. And the whole point of that show was to get Sam Wilson to kind of reckon with Captain America, the roles and the personas kind of history, and then being willing to take that on.
Yeah, and that
was his character arc.
Yeah, we had the juxtaposing versions of Captain America the soldier and Captain America the hero.
Yeah. 4 years after that, this movie comes out. Sam, could you tell me what Sam Wilson's arc is in this movie?
Well, he goes from being the best guy around to the best guy around.
The closest thing he has to an arc is that scene with Bucky, where he's like, I should have taken the serum. Gosh darn it, Steve Rogers would have done so well. Why did I even become Captain America? And then Bucky gives him this so hackneyed speech that is very out of character for him. All of his lines don't feel like
Bucky does not. For those,
it's just Sebastian Stan.
For the friends of mine who have never seen Marvel movies, which I didn't know there were that many of you, Bucky doesn't talk like that ever. He barely ever talks in general. He's kind of like a silent, kind of dark and brooding guy. So for him to give an inspirational speech out of nowhere is a little odd for his character to do.
But that whole scene is like, it's just speed running his whole arc from the 6-episode TV show we made 4 years ago. There's no evolution for this character beyond that. Which is not only a problem with this movie, but it's kind of a problem with the wider MCU stuff in general. Which is these characters really no longer have arcs. If you look at... So actually, before we went to go see this movie, I watched Civil War right before we watched it. And that was a very interesting juxtaposition to me. for a variety of reasons. One, just the practical filmmaking itself in Civil War is just so much more
better,
competent and controlled and effective than in this movie. And we'll get to that at some point, because I want to get on to the technical.
Well, there was clearly a single vision for what the project was supposed to be. This movie, you can tell, because there's no single vision for what this project was supposed to be, the tone and the presentation of the project changes from scene to scene.
And I wanted to talk about the arc of Captain America in Civil War and those three movies. Because this is a Captain America movie, right? It's a different guy in the role, but it's a Captain America movie. So the first Avenger, he learns to kind of distrust his government a little bit. He doesn't have a complete faith in the army because they won't let him go into the field, even though he's a super soldier. There's some iffy stuff around that. He wants to save his friends. He wants to help, but they won't let him, right? That's kind of his arc. And then he sacrifices himself at the end of that movie. Yeah. Winter Soldier, complete distrust of the government, right? He's trying to have faith in an institution because he's a man of time. That completely dissolves, and he chooses to try to like go after and save his friend and save all these people instead of just trusting this magnanimous institution.
Yeah.
Civil War. It's the same arc for the third time, but it's breaking his faith down in different institutions.
Yeah.
Because by Civil War, his faith in the Avengers as an institution, as an organization, collapses.
Well, I would argue it within Civil War, his faith in the Avengers as an institution doesn't. I would argue he's the one that has more faith in it, and Iron Man's faith collapsed. Because relying on the Sokovia Accords and the U.S. government to run the Avengers is a admission that we can't do it ourselves.
Well, the all three movies are basically the same character arc.
Yeah.
But it's breaking it down into different aspects of Steve Rogers' personal like faith, right?
Yeah.
So all of those three movies are about how he distrusts the system or learns to distrust the system, but still has faith with the people within it, right? The first one, it's his Howling Commandos, right? That's like the guys he trusts.
Yeah.
The second one, it's Bucky. That's who he really believes he can still save, even though all of this is collapsing around him. And then in the third one, it's the Avengers themselves, these heroes, these people trying to do good. I believe in them.
Yeah.
Even if the institution itself is like trying to hold them back.
Yeah.
Right? They don't even bother to even if they were going to recycle the same arc, right? From Falcon Winter Soldier, for this movie, for Anthony Mackie's character, Sam Wilson. And they were going to say, well, he's reckoning with not taking the serum and this role when the stakes are this high. Because Falcon and the Winter Soldier, it's world-shattering stakes, but it's mostly just like some super strong people. This one, it's a Red Hulk. It's this grand plot. It's an international incident.
I would argue
it's not even weaved through the movie itself. Like, they don't even attempt to do that until the third act starts, and there needs to be some sort of point of emotional, personal reckoning within that character. They only try to do that arc again when it's necessary for a scene to have a purpose.
I would even argue that he doesn't really... He almost has the opposite of Steve Rogers' arc, where he's the only guy repping the president, even though everyone else hates this guy. The rest of the world governments hate this guy. The rest of the superheroes hate this guy. Isaiah Bradley hates this guy. And Sam Wilson is like, guys, he's changed. Give him another shot. I promise he's different. And then he turns into the Hulk. Everyone's like, yep, we knew this guy was bad. And Sam Wilson's like, wait, guys, hang on.
He does this real power, which is give a big speech.
Sun's getting real low, big guy. And then Ross is like, oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, my bad, guys. I'm like, what? I don't understand Sam's unwavering faith in Thaddeus Ross. I don't understand where that came from.
It was such a weird choice to have. One, for this...
Especially for him. He fought with Captain America during Civil War. That is literally treason against specifically that guy. Because he's the one who put those forward at the United Nations.
I have so many questions about him just being in this movie in general. Why that decision was made. Why, one, to make him basically the co-lead. He's outside of Captain America.
Yeah,
he's the second most important
he stars
character
opposite to
in
Captain
movie.
America.
Not only for him to be in it and have that big of a role, but also for them to frame so much of the conflict between the characters off of Sam Wilson and him. Because I went back and I looked. Do you know how many scenes before this movie Thunderbolt Ross and Sam Wilson were in together in any of the previous 35 MCU movies?
I think maybe one, and I'm pretty sure Thaddeus was a hologram.
They were in one scene together in Civil War.
Yeah.
You know how many lines of dialogue they exchanged?
I don't think is any.
None.
Yeah.
They've had zero interactions up to this point.
They are aware of each other.
They know who the other one is, but that's not really a pre-existing relationship. Now, obviously, Civil War, they had a differing ideology, but in terms of just the personal stakes for the characters themselves,
yeah,
they have no relationship with each other.
No.
There is no dynamic here. So it's so odd to me to frame this entire movie as if Sam Wilson, one, has a real reason to dislike this guy or a reason to like this guy or to have trust in him at all. Or the other way around for Thaddeus Ross. These are characters with no relationship to each other. I don't understand why they framed this movie around that and then expected the audience to just kind of go along with it without having to do any work
and again,
to establish it.
Even with the fact that they have very little to do with each other, I don't understand Sam Wilson's undying support for the president.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense within the context of the movie. It doesn't make sense within the context of Sam's character. Thaddeus Ross has done nothing to demonstrate his change, and he's actively doing stuff that undermines global security with the adamantium deal or whatever that was. Mm-hmm. So I really don't understand that dynamic at all, and it makes Captain America come off as kind of a sucker.
Yeah,
because why is he writing so hard for this guy? That is, for all intents and purposes,
shown you a single
only
time.
Ever been a bad guy.
He has never done a good thing in any of these
No.
movies.
And even in this, okay, so that was a question that one of my friends did ask when they introduced the leader, and they asked what his deal was, and I explained because there was enough character. There are characters in this movie who just only exist to explain things.
Pretty much the whole first 15, 20 minutes of this movie is a series
but
of
once they understood what the leader's backstory was,
yeah.
They were like, wait, how is he the bad guy? And you know what? He's really not.
Because he's a villain in the comic books.
Yeah, aside from, randomly trying to get Japan and the US to go to war for, seemingly no real reason, he doesn't really do anything that's bad.
I have a lot of questions about his plan, and I do want to break that down in a minute. But just to finish up on Ross. This is barely a character in these movies at all.
Yeah.
He's a single-minded antagonist in the first movie he appears in, which is The Incredible Hulk in 2008, which for some reason this movie is a sequel to. And then he reappears in Civil War and Infinity War practically as an Easter egg. He doesn't do anything. That character could have very easily been anyone else.
But the idea of a general getting promoted to a higher position in the government and then undermining the authority of the superheroes that we already know he doesn't like, that is a logical continuation of his character. So that's fine.
I have no problem with him existing or him having the role he does in this movie. It's the fact that they obviously so badly want you to sympathize with him. And I have no reason to sympathize with him. The only thing they even attempt to do with that, to earn the sympathy from the audience, is he's estranged from his daughter, Betty Ross.
Oh.
It's okay.
Well, that's kind of valid.
If Thunderbolt Ross is barely a character, Betty Ross is even less of a character.
Betty Ross has only shown up
She's
one time.
Only an Incredible Hulk.
Mm-hmm.
She's Liv Tyler's a very good actor in that movie. She doesn't give a great performance. Her character is very two-dimensional. Pretty much all she does is kind of follow...
She is Hulk's
Bruce Banner around and just be like, oh, I feel so bad.
She's Hulk's girlfriend, and she has very little... She has very little traits outside of that. Yeah.
No, she's a two-dimensional character. She serves very little purpose in that story. She's barely a character. So the idea that those two relationships being strained, or that relationship being strained, and that is what should drive the audience's affection for this character is so weird.
I honestly think that dynamic in this movie works better if you haven't seen The Incredible Hulk.
Yes, because if you don't see the bad things he does all the time.
Well, not even that, but like because in this movie we're just told they had a relationship and it's not working.
Yeah.
They're not talking to each other. If you don't understand the context or the background or who Betty Ross is or what their relationship looked like, then you can imagine, oh, they used to have a good relationship. When we never really see, even in the Incredible Hulk movie, they're not like buddy. They're not like hanging out on the weekends.
Yeah, you're completely right about that. But what's crazy is this movie also expects you to have seen and remember The Incredible Hulk.
It relies
because it's a sequel to The
so
Incredible
heavily
Hulk.
on that. Yeah.
Why?
I don't know. And I will give them this one thing. I think there is interesting commentary to do with Thaddeus Ross and him being turned into a Hulk. Because that was like, he hates the Hulk. His biggest defining trait is that he doesn't like the Hulk.
That's his only trait in
so,
comic books.
Him being turned into a Hulk should be emotionally rough for him to reckon with.
It should start some like internal conflict. What am I doing? What have I done?
And when he's getting shot at by his own security and the helicopters, that should be going like, oh, I did this to Bruce. This is what it feels like. Maybe I'm not a great guy. That should have happened. Instead, what happens is he just destroys some stuff and then he passes out. Also, Red Hulk in the comics is not a rage monster. He's not like the Hulk.
No,
he retains all of his he retains his regular Thunderbolt Ross personality, and he's not fueled by rage. He's fueled by whatever heat energy he can absorb within the nearby area.
Which he does set his clothes on fire.
He does have like a thermal output,
but they never clarify.
But they never clarify or explain what that is or how that works. And
he is just a rage monster.
And in this one, he is just a rage monster, just full on. He is the same as the Hulk, but red.
How they treated Hulk in the movies up till a point. By the time they got to like Age of Ultron, like the Hulk had a personality and was like
Yes, but the Hulk was still clearly separate from Bruce Banner.
Yeah. It was a distinct personality, but it was like he developed like
a he was less
and then you get to Ragnarok
unthinking.
He was speaking and basically just a normal guy. You're right, Sam. And you know what? That sounds like a very good idea for a Hulk movie. If this was a Hulk movie, right?
It would be fine.
This would be fine. This is a serviceable setup because you have all of the Hulk characters. You can generate some conflict.
Also, a government conspiracy with a super duper smart evil bad guy fighting the big rage monster Hulk smashy smash guy. That's an interesting concept. How does the strong muscly unthinking guy beat the super smart guy? And how does he deal with this government conspiracy? We know Captain America can deal with government conspiracies. He does that every other week.
We watched 6 episodes of this Captain America do that very thing.
And 3 other movies and a bunch of other movies of the other Captain America also doing that thing.
This idea.
We understand Captain America can deal with government conspiracies.
It's like they don't understand what was novel about Winter Soldier. Because that is obviously what every Marvel movie they do that's not like in space, they try to be like, this is Winter Soldier. This is like Winter Soldier. You love Winter Soldier.
I think it's impossible to replicate that at this point.
Yes, because the reason Winter Soldier was novel was because the first Captain America movie wasn't anything like Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
It was because we're taking this historically campy character who runs around
and putting him in an extremely serious
and he has a big metal frisbee, and we're going to put him in a very serious, like very grounded, very very dark and gritty political thriller, right? Like that was the idea behind Winter Soldier.
And
the novelty could kind of be recaptured for that if you go, we're going to take the Hulk this big cartoon green guy, and we're going to put him at the center of a political thriller because that's novel. It's like, okay,
how does the Hulk deal
how
with
is
that?
the Hulk going to manage this? Because he's a big, strong guy who's not very smart.
And he's not stealthy.
Yeah, and so he's going to need to, he's going to need to really balance Banner and the Hulk to get this to work because otherwise he's going to fail. That works. If you just go, we're going to do Falcon and the Winter Soldier again, but now the villain's slightly different.
And you know who...
and it's shorter.
You know who would probably, at least would make more sense if they were really good at talking down the Hulk? Mm-hmm. Probably Bruce Banner.
Yeah, because he would have experience,
because he's the Hulk!
It would be better if that was Bruce Banner doing that.
Even She-Hulk would have made more sense.
Character progression for Mark Ruffalo, for Bruce Banner.
Yeah.
Because he would have had to be like, well, this guy who spent years trying to hunt me down and kill me, I need to save him right now.
Yeah, and that's interesting.
The movie in its current form is fundamentally uninteresting.
Yeah, because right now we have Captain America who has no connection with this character, and he's like, well, he's the president, so I mean, I guess I gotta defend him.
But you don't.
But number one, you don't, and number two, who cares?
And I was thinking, even just now, it's like, okay, the action sequences in this movie, right? Mm-hmm. It's like him beating a couple guys up in some rooms. By the way, the opening action scene, awful, terrible.
That was really bad. Yeah, that one was really
obvious
bad.
Obvious reshoot from 4 months ago.
Yeah.
Very bad action
I think they were editing the movie and they were like, we need an action scene at the beginning.
Yeah. And so they added that.
Yeah.
Because that's also the only time he wears his old suit. Because then for the rest of the movie, he's in a different one for his
Also, he didn't say that I can do this all day when the other guy beat him up.
I was waiting for that.
He should have said that.
I was like, that's...
It just shows that, okay, he's officially picked up the mantle now.
That is like a... Yeah.
Because,
that's the character of
the whole show was him reckoning with picking up the mantle. Mm-hmm. Him choosing to finally make that choice and be Captain America. Now that we know he is Captain America, that's a good way to show to the audience, he's really in it now. He's picking up where Steve left off. And it's not a big deal. And it doesn't even necessarily make a whole lot of sense for his character to say that. But it's just an easy way to show the audience that he's back.
And even just within that scene, it's such a T-ball, right? They set it up.
They set it up for him to say that, and he says some other thing.
Isn't the line just like, do you want to give up now or something? And it's like what any hack screenwriter, they got 5-6 guys, hack screenwriters working on this thing. Any one of them knows to write that line there.
Yeah.
But it's I wonder if it was there.
I think they were afraid of having him say that. I think they were afraid. Yeah.
But it's Marvel's whole operation now basically runs on just getting to the cheer moments.
But you know what? I don't think they would have been afraid of that if it was Bucky who was Captain America. I think it's because it's Anthony Mackie as Captain America, and they want them to feel different because I think the commentary they want to do with this character is different.
I think they still feel different enough. I mean, he has no powers, and he has a big bird costume. That's all he really needs.
Yeah, he's a very different character.
His action sequences are different. He fights very different.
But at the same time, the whole reason Captain America chose him to be the next Captain America is because of those character similarities, outside of their physical similarities, outside of their power similarities, outside of everything else, because Steve knows that it's not the powers that made him Captain America.
It was the fact he was a good
and
dude.
He knows better than anyone else. Yeah. Because everyone else that was involved is dead now, because that was the 1940s. But still, except for Bucky, but even he didn't take the serum super well, and he kind of went crazy for a couple of years. But also, the Soviet super soldier serum, that's still around and works fine, I assume, right?
So Sam, speaking of, this is a complete tangent. This has nothing to do with the movie. But I was watching Incredible Hulk a few days before this because I knew
it was going to be all Hulk stuff.
It was going to be a sequel, basically. And in that movie, which is from 2008, it was the second MCU movie they ever made.
Right after Iron Man.
They give Emil Blonsky, the Abomination, a super soldier serum. The government does. And it just works. It works good and normal and fine. The only reason he hulks out is because at the end of the movie, he also injects himself with the Hulk's blood. And that's what makes him the Abomination. And so I was like, the government has... The government has a working, functioning super soldier serum And they have had it in this universe for going on 20 years.
I think we did know that. Because that's...
We did?
Yeah, no, I think that's what the super soldier serum in Falcon and the Winter Soldier was.
Maybe.
Because we do know that there has been a super soldier serum around. We do know...
Yeah, because they have a bunch of them in Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Yeah, it makes sense to me that like they did create a successful one, but then because of how the Hulk ended up, the government ended up just kind of scrapping the project, and then that was later picked up by Zemo and the whatever the people were in that show. Like that's
the Flag
Smashers.
Flag Smashers.
Yeah, so like that's there being a working super soldier serum, but then them not using it because of how the Hulk project ended up. That makes sense to like. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but it makes just enough sense that I don't have to question it that much. But yeah, my bigger question is like, if Bucky's serum worked and Red Guardian's serum worked and no one blew up their super soldier program, then why aren't there more Russian super soldiers?
There's no Russian-Ukraine conflict.
That would end poorly. That would end very quickly.
Anyway, let's move on. I want to touch on some other character stuff here. So let's talk about some of these villains. Actually, before we get to the villains, we talked a lot about Sam Wilson and his lack of a character.
Let's talk about someone who has even less of a character.
Well, just real quick.
I don't remember his name.
His sidekick.
Ramos?
Falcon?
New Falcon. What's his name, though?
Awful character. Not because he's, like, bad or annoying. He's just nothing.
He's just not necessary. He just, like, he doesn't do anything.
There just needs to be someone for Sam to talk
even
to.
Okay, so in the first action scene... He is off doing a separate thing while Sam is fighting the bad guys. Like, he goes and grabs a thing. Mm-hmm. So he doesn't really fight. In the second action scene, he gets shot down and taken out of commission. In the third action scene, he's still in the hospital, so he doesn't fight in that one either. So he doesn't actually do anything in the whole movie.
And in the movie, they're like, well, he's still learning to be the Falcon. And then they say in like a throwaway line that they've been working together for 4 years.
Even the Falcon in his first movie, yes, he clearly was not on Captain America's level,
but
he was doing things. He didn't do a single mission and then be out of commission the whole movie.
Also, his suit sucks.
It's so bad.
It looks awful.
You know that ad, the Microsoft Copilot ad, where he designs his suit with Microsoft Copilot?
Oh.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's actually how they designed his suit.
No, honestly, it looks pretty much 1-to-1 like his suit in the comics does.
But his suit in the comics is really lame.
The comics is also awful.
It's just green.
It's like, it's an awful color scheme. It's just green and
Why not
brown.
just make it the Falcon suit from the comics? Like Falcon's Falcon suit. Since the Falcon never really got his comic suit.
Some gray and some.
It's like
red
bold
splashes.
white, bold red, red wings.
Give him the red and white.
Yeah.
Why
because
did they do that?
Falcon, like Anthony Mackie Falcon, never had the. It was always like a gray kind of robot suit, right? He never really had the Falcon suit.
Like,
it wasn't even really a superhero suit until he became Captain America.
Mm-hmm.
So you still could totally use that design for this other character. Or not.
Especially if Captain America is going to ditch the white outfit. Because then that's open, because his new one's just blue, and it just looks like the old one.
So have you considered just green? Just green and he looks...
Green and brown.
What if he just looks like he was on a motorcycle?
It's obvious it's supposed to look like it's the army color scheme.
Yeah, but
that's a boring color scheme.
Also, he's not in the army.
He's in the Air Force.
Yeah, so that doesn't make sense either.
I don't know. Dumb, bad. Anyway, bad suit. Not an annoying character, but just I don't understand.
Like, you know what? As a sidekick character, he's probably the least annoying. Introduced sidekick character.
Oh, okay.
I've seen him in a long time.
We could probably do like a tier list of annoying MCU sidekicks.
Like, he's... Like, the character himself, I found he was kind of funny. I actually liked the character. He just doesn't do anything.
Well,
he's completely superfluous to the story.
He does all of the things too. Like he's in the field, and then he's also the guy in the chair.
And you know what? I think the problem is that he's far too similar to Captain America. He has no powers. They have the same wingsuit. The only difference is he doesn't have a big metal frisbee. That's the only difference. So, like, power-wise,
he does all the
when you're trying to make an interesting fight scene, having two characters with the exact same powers is hard to balance because the audience gets bored of seeing just the one thing over and over again.
Yeah, because like
even with like Iron Iron Man and War Machine, right? They at least changed War Machine's design up, and they made his
He's a tank.
they made his weapons a lot more tactile.
Yeah.
So whereas Iron Man is shooting a lot of lasers, War Machine was usually dropping bombs and like shooting little explosives and stuff like that.
Stuff like that.
Yeah. So they differentiated them by making his fighting style different. They didn't even really do that. They just had him be out of commission the whole movie, which is like,
Yeah.
then
And
why is
again,
he here?
Because of Captain America's new suit, it's another very muted color scheme. So they don't
Yeah.
even have, like, at least with Iron Man and War Machine, you get like the bright gold red suit.
Also,
and that dark
if you
black
haven't
gray
seen
suit.
Black Panther, a lot of the fights aren't going to make a lot of sense. Because they
I
take...
don't know how I feel about the vibranium wings.
I'm okay with it because this guy has no powers.
I get that, but it feels...
It feels a little
It
overpowered.
gets to the point where it's like, okay, what is the point of the shield?
The shield is a symbol more than anything else. I think even within the context of the story, that's the case.
Yeah, but that's like Captain America's whole thing. It
And he
should
still
be
uses
this
the
kind of-
shield. Like
he
it-
does, but like the wings can block every bullet, and then they also like shoot. They can do the big Black Panther energy burst thing. And
Yeah.
he can shoot the quills out of him. So they do.
Also, vibranium can cut the Hulk. Is that a thing? I mean, it makes sense. I'm not complaining about it. But like, was that a thing?
Yeah, who knows?
Like, sure, okay.
It might have. I don't think he was necessarily super hard to cut because I think he gets cut up in Ragnarok.
He only gets cut in this movie by the vibranium.
And in this, but I think like OG Hulk has been cut up before.
Also, again, if you haven't seen Black Panther, which my friends had not, you are not going to understand any of that.
Well, I think just the idea that the MCU is impenetrable at this point. Like, if you're
Yeah.
watching this, you've seen
You have to.
there's a 95%.
Or you have to
chance
accept
at
that
least
you're
some of
not
this
going to
fight.
understand how the fights are working.
And I do think because this movie starts with just they don't even do the logo and fanfare.
No, they just go
It's just
straight
the
into
Marvel
it.
Studios logo, and then they just go straight into like, here's a recap of the Incredible Hulk and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and now we.
And like, why? Why didn't we do the fanfare?
Because I think that was a lesson.
That's just a weird choice. Just do it.
Because this movie is trying very hard to be
Special
a
and different.
70s political thriller in its presentation.
Is it?
Yes. It's not succeeding, but it is trying to do that.
Aside from literally that one opening thing
Well,
with
you
the
got
slightly
opening,
different...
There's
That's the only thing that I even interpreted as a 70s
the
political
movie has
thriller.
been layered with a bunch of film grain.
But only in
for
some
the-
scenes.
Most of it has a lot of film grain.
Only when they're talking in
There's
like
a couple
one-on-one
scenes where they
conversations.
try to shoot it with like some pretty harsh shadows, and then you have some. Occasionally, the camera will be put in like a odd spot. Like there's some interesting camera placements, some stuff he tries to do,
Yeah, but then every fight looks like
but none of it's
cotton
consistent.
candy
Well,
land.
because and honestly, I don't blame him for that because I know how Marvel works, and they hand you the action scenes before you're even on board as the director. Like they start doing the previs, they basically do all the action scenes for you.
Yeah.
And then they hire you and your job is to shoot the talkie bits. My problem with the direction in this is that the talkie bits aren't well filmed. There is a lot of, and we can get into the technical.
Okay.
There's a lot of just flat two shots
Yeah.
of just horizons in the middle, character here, and they're just talking at each other. It looks, and it's edited a lot of the time like a sitcom, like a TV NBC show.
Yeah. Which isn't like awful. It's just not. You
It's
expect
not
a big.
cinematic.
Yeah, you expect more
You
when
have
you're
a
going to the
$200
movie.
million budget.
Also, I liked the original Thunderbolt Ross intro as opposed to the new one that they filmed later and then added and tacked on at the beginning of the movie.
Which one?
The scene where Wilson walks into the room, he's having a discussion. He turns around and he's like kind of somber, a little. You're a little put off by. He's a little creepy.
Yeah.
That was a way better introduction to this character than the actual introduction where they have him like, he won the presidency and he's really angry about it. And he's like, I hate that. And he like kicks over a desk or something. I was like, okay, well now he's a cartoon character. Whereas like later on when we see what was obviously supposed to be where they introduced this character,
I wonder.
that was a way better version of the
I
character.
don't know when William Hurt died, who played him originally.
Yeah.
I wonder if that was his introduction. I wonder if there was a version of the script where it was supposed to be William Hurt, and so that was his introduction, and that was basically this guy's the president. And I think they added the bit at the start.
Just to be like, Harrison Ford is this guy, by the
Because
way.
they have to establish
Yeah.
that Harrison Ford is playing that character.
Also, this is something I told to, again, my friends that were sitting next to me, that they keep saying, Thunderbolt Ross has changed. He's a new man. And I was like, yeah, because he's literally a different guy now. Like, that's what, every time they said that, I kept thinking, yeah, because it's a different guy. It's not the same guy.
Yeah, so there's just some other, I'm just looking at my notes, just some other filmmaking stuff I noticed. There's several shots that are out of focus.
Some of those I did notice were supposed to be on purpose.
But
Like, it was supposed to create like a tense
that's
atmosphere.
I think there was literally one that was like Threadbird, like flying past the building, and it was just out of focus.
Yeah.
Like there's.
How do you even do that because it's a CGI thing? How do you not focus? You can just put the CGI where the focus
probably
is,
because
can't
they
you?
do the focus in post. But there's probably a way to like refocus
There-
the camera on a CG object in post.
There is,
Yeah.
but that doesn't make sense. Like, why would you not? Why would you add a CGI object and then manually make it so so that the focus is not on the
Well,
object?
because that was the opening scene that they shot 3 months ago, and they forgot.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Either put the CGI object where the focus is, or put the focus where the object is.
There's some noticeable ADR, but it's not too bad. There's some obvious stuff where it was like a reshoot or like additional dialogue.
Yeah.
Probably after reshoots that you can tell because there's just characters who are speaking who are on screen.
So I'd want to do some character.
Eye lines.
Be there.
Film school stuff 101, like first week of film school stuff. The whole third act conversation where Anthony Mackie's talking to Red Hulk and he's just looking at his waist.
Yeah.
Eye lines, dude. 101.
Look up.
You gotta make sure that those are in the right spot. There's some atrocious green screening, especially at the very end.
Yeah, but that's to
Very
be expected.
awful.
That's fine.
But like that shouldn't be though.
Oh, yeah, I mean, that
You
scene
should've
with the
just
Hulk.
been like,
Honestly, I don't know that it was the green screening that was bad. I think the lighting was really bad in that scene.
Either way, both.
'Cause it's-
like, you gotta fix
The
it.
lighting, it was hard to tell where the light was, and that made the green screen look worse.
Which is still a problem on the director. 'Cause
For
you gotta
sure,
make
yeah.
that scene's well
But I'm saying like, well, it's not that the scene was like well lit in the sense you could see everything, but like it was poorly lit in the sense that like the lighting made it look bad, like it looked fake.
Yeah, again, a lot of just very, very dull. A lot of the shots are just very dull and boring.
I like when the Hulk jumps in the house.
It's trying to be a political thriller, but it just refuses to build tension. Like, it's so impatient with
The
itself.
closest thing we have to building tension is the Isaiah Bradley assassination and then his arrest, like after that.
Yeah.
And then he immediately, they're like, oh, he was mind controlled. Don't worry, guys, he was mind controlled.
Well,
It would have been cool if they, for just a little bit, they were like, did he really do it? Like, oh my God.
within that scene, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's when I first noticed it. I was like, okay, if you're trying to make this tense, you have him start acting off, right?
Yeah.
And then they sit down, and you hear this faint noise in the background, and it kind of gets louder.
Maybe they're having a conversation and he just kind of spaces out and walks off and he's like, Isaiah? And he like walks off, he's like,
Yeah,
oh, okay,
you
well, I
see
hope
him,
he's all right.
sits down, and then like maybe he slowly like you hear Harrison Ford talking, and your attention shifts to him, but then his dialogue kind of lowers in the scene, and you go into like
They're like,
Isaiah Bradley's perspective of Buzz,
yeah.
and then he gets up, and then he like maybe starts to walk out the room, and then like the security guard's like, oh, stop,
And
then
he grabs the
reaches for his
gun.
and then he grabs it, and then he goes, right?
Yeah.
And then he shoots.
Something happened.
This whole movie, it's just like.
No,
they're in
instead
that
we're just
scene-
like, no, he starts
They're in
shooting.
that scene, and then he just gets up and grabs a gun, and then we all start running and screaming.
Also, where did he get that gun from?
He walks over to a guard and gets it, but that's not. The scene isn't edited or shot like
Yeah.
it's supposed to be tense. It's just like things are happening.
Yeah.
Action's going. Are you entertained? Guns are shooting.
Also, his like head of security character. Why is she here? Who is
I
that?
think she had a bigger role, and then they reshot.
Even
it
if she
and-
had a bigger role, she didn't do anything.
Well, because you know who that character is, Sam.
Yeah, but no, because she's not that character at all. So
Because
I'm gonna dance around her character, but in this movie, she is an ex-Black Widow.
Mm-hmm.
So not at all the same in any way. Not even remotely a little bit the same. She's like Russian,
well, no, she's Israeli, but she was a Black Widow.
which is a Russian covert ops program.
No, her character is nothing. Like an obvious probably was. And then same like Sam Wilson as a friend in Ross's like circle. who's like
I don't remember that. Oh, right, the one army guy with the beard.
no,
Guy.
there's like a black lady who he's friends with. They have like 2 scenes.
Oh yeah,
She
the one
just
with the little
disappears.
badge?
She just
Yeah.
disappears from the movie. It was an obvious like that was probably something in the first script that just
Yeah.
got slowly dwindled down until it's barely even in it.
She and Sabra character should have been the same character.
Yeah. Probably because she was the main one, and then they added Sabra in the second draft, and then by the time they got to draft 7,
They were like, oh,
it got to the point where neither one of them did anything. It's an awful got All right, I just have some other random.
The leader's plan is so stupid.
The leader's
they
plan
never
is
call him
dumb.
the leader. So like when I was talking to my friends, I kept calling him the leader because I know who he is, but like they didn't know. They kept calling him the buyer because the movie keeps calling him the buyer,
Yeah.
which doesn't make a lot of sense. I'm not gonna explain why. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. Why would he buy that? And then later we know that it's because he's just like trying to start a war with Japan. And then we're like, well, okay, why did he do that? And he's like, because Ross is lame and I want him to look stupid.
We've been kind of doing spoilers this whole time, but full spoilers because we're gonna get into this dumb plan this guy's got.
Yeah.
So his whole thing is that after Incredible Hulk, he got locked in a basement, right?
Yep.
And because
For 17 years.
for 17 years, his brain got mutated and he was all deformed.
So the Hulk got super strong and super dumb. He got super frail and super smart. That's
Yes.
how the leader works.
So he's in this basement, and General Ross is making him conduct various experiments and like help him do calculations and make his vague disease cure pills, right?
Right.
So he wants revenge on Ross. So his plan is to slowly feed him gamma radiated pills over several years.
That would turn him into the
That'll eventually turn him into a Red Hulk. And he wants him to Hulk out while on a boat in the Indian Ocean during a fight with the Japanese government over the celestial hand thing in the ocean from Eternals.
The adamantium.
Over the adamantium.
Yeah, my friends asked me what that was. I was like, just accept that there's a giant hand in the ocean because I don't have time to explain what that is.
Yeah, well, when I was like, if you asked me to like say, hey, Tucker, can you write Captain America 4? I'd be like, of course. Let me make sure it's a sequel to The Incredible Hulk and Eternals, the 2 most popular and beloved MCU movies.
Everybody hates those 2.
And they made no money. No one saw those ones. But he wants him to Hulk out and ruin a peace deal with the Japanese, and then by implication several other countries.
Yeah.
Which I guess is mostly
There's
just
a joint treaty between
yeah,
Japan, the United
like
States,
the whole UN.
India. No, because it's specifically the ones involved in the adamantium. There was another country as well, but it was Japan, India, and America were the main ones.
Japan is the main one in this.
Because the Celestial is in the Indian Ocean, and Japan was the first to get the adamantium from it, and then America just also wants it, and because we're America, we get to be at the table.
Of course.
Yes.
So he wants him to ruin this peace deal and humiliate himself. That's it. He doesn't really get anything out of it.
Nope.
Because his plan also involves buying adamantium from Sidewinder, who is added in reshoots. And
was a CIA asset?
Maybe?
Yeah, well, he was paid with the CIA money.
Okay. I like the part where he just disappeared halfway through the movie.
Well, he goes to jail. And
Yeah.
they're like, you're in jail. That's it.
It's just completely superfluous addition. Obvious, like, the test screening went poorly. What do people like right now? Oh, they love Giancarlo Esposito. Can we get him in this? Yeah, sure. He can play Snake Man. He can play Sidewinder. What a waste of an actor. You're going to get Gus Fring from Breaking Bad, and he's going to play... He's going to play Sidewinder from the Serpent Society.
Why wasn't he the leader?
Well, because Tim Blake Nelson already was from Incredible Hulk.
Oh.
So you had to bring him back.
Okay, well, he can be a different villain in a different movie.
That's what I'm saying. Why is he in this?
Such a waste.
Because he's like barely even in scenes that you can market.
Yeah, phenomenal actor.
Barely can even be in the trailer because he's in this so little.
Literally just give him
nothing. And it's not like you're going to bring him back and give him a larger role later.
And he had like a cool...
He's the Serpent Society guy.
And he had like a cool introduction where he's like, oh, Padre, I'm going to cut you, Padre. And He's all being all mean to the nuns and stuff, right? Like, that's a scary intro for a villain, but he just doesn't do anything. Also, I didn't know Anthony Mackie, Captain America, was immune to mustard gas.
You didn't?
Yeah, I didn't know he had the power of he's immune to mustard gas.
Well, Sam, he also can get stabbed a couple times and just it'd be fine.
Okay, but every character in the MCU can get stabbed a couple times.
But it's the wild...
Oh, I noticed, and this I pointed out to the person next to me as well, that hatchet that was like stuck in him in his body, he pulls that out, and then in the next cut when he's holding it, it's like it just came out of a hospital. It's sterile. There's no blood or anything on it.
That was too sticky, and they
like,
had to wipe it off.
Come on!
Because they shot that scene 3 months ago, and they were in a rush, and they probably just threw it all together, and they never watched it and like double checked. Yeah, no, it's incompetent. Like, it's an incompetently put together movie. And his plan, the leader's plan, it involves turning himself in at the very end, which does nothing and triggers nothing, and I don't know why he did it.
I think he was there so he could hack the speakers for the inauguration thing.
I don't understand how that helped him hack the speaker system.
I don't.
You know what it probably.
To be there.
You know what it probably was.
Well, he wanted to be there for the vibe.
At the end of the movie, he probably originally got away, and then they were like, "Oh well, we need him to be in a post-credit scene in that prison, so just have him turn himself in at the end of the movie."
Him doing like where he got away, and then he's like,
he like gives him a phone call,
freaking out, and he's like sketching out like the thing that's about to come or whatever. Then you actually foreshadow something. But since they don't know, this is my conspiracy theory now. They don't know what they're going to do at the end of this little saga. They have like vague notions of what they want to do, but they cannot be specific because they don't know.
No, they can't.
When he's like, something's coming.
Well, because
there's a thing coming.
This movie was written.
What's coming?
This movie was written before Loki season 1 came out. So, or at least that's when they started writing it. So this was Kang the Conqueror's ago.
Plans have changed drastically.
Sam, do you know how many movies we have until Doomsday? 2.
Yeah.
They got 2 more movies to set all this crap up for the big conclusion.
There are other worlds, Captain America.
Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four.
Are you ready for when there's other worlds?
And at the end of this, he's like, we got to put the Avengers together.
There's other worlds. What's going to do in those other worlds? That's how the leader talks.
We can talk about the future stuff at the end. I want to make sure I don't have anything else to say about the movie itself. I have random questions. Why did Isaiah Bradley get locked in a regular prison and not the Supermax prison for superpowered people that we see later on in the movie?
Yeah, the Raft.
They
canonically put every supervillain.
Which is right now the Red Hulk, the leader, and Zemo.
Also,
those are the only 3 people in the Raft.
Who's operating the Raft?
The government.
No, it was a SHIELD initiative.
It's in Civil War, and it's just like the government's operating it.
Yeah, but
and it's also in Falcon Winter Soldier, but I don't think they say who's operating it.
Yeah, it's a SHIELD thing usually, so it's weird that they're still just.
We'll probably see in Thunderbolts. It's probably Fontaine, right? Because that's probably where they lock up all the Thunderbolts people.
She's like the slightly more morally questionable.
Well, they got to phase Nick Fury out because Samuel L. Jackson's 100 years old.
And also, is he still?
And he's in space, maybe?
I
don't know.
Right.
Why did the leader get captured? It doesn't help his plan at all. What was the point of hiring the Serpent Society to steal the adamantium for Ross? I still don't understand. What did that help him do?
It made Japan mad.
But he didn't want them to be mad.
No, the leader is the one who hired Sidewinder.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, right, because then he framed him. All right, yeah, I just forgot. Why did Ross go to the evil gamma-radiated scientist man that he was illegally holding prisoner for medical help and not literally anyone else?
Great question.
Why not go to, like, Tony Stark?
Or any of the other super smart science people who have magical cures? Or Wakanda. Wakanda has vibranium.
Even if they don't like you, they'll probably just do it. Yeah.
Especially if you're like the president.
Yeah. How did the leader learn about the incoming threat of Doctor Doom from doing an equation? Also, it's a bad, pointless scheme.
He's seen it in the numbers, Tucker.
It's an obvious, like, we need something to allude to something. Just throw a scene together.
I'm trying to think if there's any way we could have done... like foreshadowing to the greater Avengers stuff through a Captain America movie.
I think.
Really don't think that. I really think that is kind of the only.
Okay,
way
well,
to
we'll talk about. Let me just have a few more. I have an idea for how you could do that. New Falcon sucks. He shouldn't be on the Avengers. You shouldn't put this guy.
Okay,
He's
but,
not qualified to be on the Avengers.
Hot take.
What?
Regular Falcon probably should not have been on the Avengers.
Yes, to a point,
Has
but
he
also
ever-
they were more limited in their options.
Yes.
At
that's true.
Age of Ultron time,
Age of Ultron,
you could get anyone
Age
now.
Of Ultron, it made sense because Captain America was desperate, and he was already friends with Sam. I'm saying like later on,
Yeah.
like when they're fighting Thanos.
Well, but by the time they were at like Endgame final battle, you just needed anyone.
Yeah, everyone was there.
Just anyone who had like a magic stick. Like he's gonna help you out. Let's see. Fun when Bucky shows up for one scene. Why wasn't he in any of the other
Should have been in
rest
the
of the
whole
movie?
I don't know why.
Why were none of the other Captain America characters in this?
Yeah,
I
what's
don't
going
know.
on with the Power Broker?
Like,
what's she doing?
we got Sharon Carter, we got Zemo, we got Bucky. There's Sam's whole family from Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Chilling on their shrimp boat.
Yeah,
Is
we
that what
don't
they were
see
doing?
any of them
They're
in
shrimp
this.
Farmers.
We see Isaiah Bradley, but we don't see Eli Bradley.
They mention him though.
Maybe once.
He's like, "How's your grandson?"
But he's not in the
Yeah.
movie. And then how is he running for Congress? He killed like dozens of
He is
people.
an ex-Russian spy.
Yeah.
You cannot win. No, okay. Hang on. You can be accused of being an ex-Russian spy.
Of course. And
still win an election.
Yes.
He was definitely
He was
a Russian spy.
he is on record killing like several influential American
He
individuals.
kicked a serving U.S. Army soldier who may have been Hydra,
Mm-hmm.
but technically U.S. Army soldier into an airplane turbine.
Yep. He also killed Howard Stark on
Yeah.
video, publicly available in knowledge on the internet. Anyway, and then what and why is Sabra? You were asking how could they have like set up Avengers stuff from this? So this whole movie, right, or at least a couple scenes, is like, Sam, we want Captain America to come back and lead the new Avengers, right? Like that's some of it.
Right.
Here's your post-credit scene. It's Captain America and it's New Falcon, right? And they're sitting in that Captain America loft that they live in, that you see in that one scene. We never know where it is. They're just like living in this
The
Captain
cat
America
loft.
themed loft, but they're in their loft or whatever, and they got like the hologram screen, and they're like, all right, well, let's look at the candidates. And then you show pictures of like who they're thinking of recruiting.
Here's what you do. So you know that Avengers campus that is around and I guess just really dusty right now?
Oh no, it got obliterated by that
The
spaceship.
US government rebuilt it. And they go in and there's like boxes and there's tarps on all the furniture. And he goes up and he's like, "Man, it's a little dusty in here." And then he
like takes a thing off the table. It's got the A on it.
yeah. So like some other government Sabra's there and she's got a folder. And
She's like, let's look at
she's
the
like,
candidates.
Here's the candidates, and he opens it up, and it's a bunch of pictures of
Of
all
just
the
like the
young
random
Avengers.
MCU characters.
Yeah, like
all right, we just gotta finish this up.
Yeah.
All right, yeah.
so. I mean, if you've literally never seen an MCU movie before, I guess this is the one to watch.
No,
But otherwise, yeah, you could skip it. It's
No.
not that important.
stay away.
to the
If you've
story.
been avoiding MCU stuff, you're doing a great
This
job.
one's not worth coming back for.
Nope. And I'm not. Again, we got 2 more of these before Doomsday. They gotta
Thunderbolts,
really
both
clutch up.
Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four both.
They
look a
don't
lot more
look bad.
promising than this one.
They don't look bad, and they, as far as I know, they've only shot both of those movies one time. So
Yeah, which is reassuring.
we'll find out. All right.
Have a good one.